Hi everyone, Zachary Lui here from Toronto Qigong. Today I'd like to talk to you about what the Dantian is and its importance to your Qigong practice. Let's start off by looking at its variety of names. Dantian literally translates from Chinese to English as the cinnabar field or field of elixir. Its secondary names could be the Sea of Qi or plainly just the Elixer Field. Cinnabar or Dan has a very important role in Chinese culture. The first reference I'm going to make here is about how cinnabar would be grounded up into an ink, and that ink would be only used by the emperor to write his proclamations, and it would turn into a bright red or what we call a vermilion ink that could only be used by him. The second reference would be about how cinnabar would be a code word for alchemy and its transformative ability of changing something base, being cinnabar being ore, to mercury being a liquid. And the whole point of this processing, as a metaphor from a Chinese standpoint, would be to cultivate your health, longevity, and even spirituality of becoming immortal or enlightened. And early Chinese alchemists would actually be using external alchemy, as we call it, or traditional Chinese medicine herbology, and actually using cinnabar and mercury to get some kind of effects in the body aside from just, say, mercury poisoning. However, later this would metaphorically be used for Qigong, transforming the body physically into something more energy based and then something more ethereally based. Symbolically, then, we can view cinnabar as a term for change, transformation, and refinement. The next word would be field or tian, which would correlate with an arable land or just a place where you can cultivate and harvest from. When we combine both words, we get the extended meaning of a field where you can cultivate transformation to be in a higher state, have more longevity, or even be enlightened and then become immortal. Let's move on now to the next name, being Qi Hai, or Sea of Qi. Now, Qi Hai not only makes a reference to the Dantian being a place of transformation, but a place where the Qi is so abundant that it overflows much like a sea. And this is very important because the radical or character for Qi is traditionally written as a piece of rice that has vapor steaming off of it. So think of a cooking metaphor. When you put rice in the cooker and you see the steam coming out, literally it means the rice transforming itself into something a little more ethereal, so then you can eat that physical rice and get physical vitality and energy. Moving on to the next character of Hai or Sea now. Sea is actually a word that has two components to it. One being a radical for water, the next being a word directly meaning every. And the extended associations of this word of sea can also incorporate numerous, a great many, or even flourishing. So we can see how measurement characteristics are correlated with the word sea. Breaking down that character even more, let's take away that water radical completely. And let's take out that measurement component of sea. What we're left with then is origin and mother. And there's a quote in Chinese, generally, or a saying I should say, that says, The sea is the mother of all rivers and water. And there's a really nice quote I found from Arthur Waley in his rendition of the Tao Te Ching, 1934 edition, that states in chapter 32, quote, "As streams and torrents flow into a great river or sea," unquote. This shows that all water will go into the sea, and then the sea will store this water and then give it back to the rivers at some point. Now, the interesting thing about this whole metaphor is in Chinese acupuncture theory, we have an actual point called qi hai, which is actually physically and anatomically located where the center of gravity is and is correlated with the lower Dantian, which I'll talk about just in a little bit. However, this point being conception vessel 6 or Ren 6 is where you, if you were an acupuncturist, would tap into if the patient needed more qi, and you would tap this reserve and open it up. I will also say from an acupuncture point theory that there are many qi hais in the body, not just the Ren 6 or conception vessel 6. Now, when we look at the overall meaning, when we link these words together being, say, qi hai, dantian, things like that, we get the extended or more extrapolated meaning, which could correlate as the sea of energy or mother that originates numerous and great things which can flourish and be measured and then can be cultivated into longevity and spiritual growth, becoming immortal or enlightened. That's a lot of meaning when we think about it. And that's probably why we would want to actually work with something called the Elixer Fields or Sea of Qis in Qigong. Now, with that explanation down, in Qigong we have actually 3 Dantians, and they are actually related to Chinese cosmology, and this would be called the Sankai, which would translate directly as the 3 abilities. Other names for this could be the 3 realms, the Trinity of the universe, or even the 3 powers. Now, this Trinity consists of earth, man, and heaven. And each Dantian is actually correlated with one of these powers. The lower Dantian would be correlated with earth. The middle Dantian would be correlated with man or human or humanity. And lastly, the upper Dantian would correlate with heaven. Generally, from a Qigong standpoint, we want to start off with earth because it is a place that will nourish us, where we can get our basic harvest from, and then we can move toward the other elixir fields. Hence why when we do a sealing and closing, we always rub the lower Dantian. The reason again is so we have a proper foundation which then we can build a pyramid from. Now, I hope you enjoyed this presentation and video. For more information, go to Toronto Qigong, and I'll see you there.